You must be Po, the dragon warrior. Yes, and you must be Kai, maker of widows. Yes, finally. Finally, some recognition. Almost makes me sad about having to kill you.
Jim, I'm trying to video the cat without your bizarre background diatribe.
Kai has returned. Kai, General Kai, Supreme Warlord of all China.
Okay, so I have purchased some shot number 9, 25 pounds from West Coast Shot Company. Made in a drop tower, old-fashioned way. And it looks like this. I don't know if that's even focusing. There you go. There it is. Anyway, so bunch of crunching of numbers. The area that they call out in the plan is the 5x9, 1 inch thick. That turns out to be, at this. So lead's density is 707.93 pounds per cubic foot, which is, where is it? 0.41. That's another crunched number. 0.41 pounds per cubic inch. The area of 5x9 is 5 times 9 times 1 divided by 12 cubed is 0.026 cubic feet. So ends up being 18.4 pounds. Okay. So if I melt lead, I have in that area, dump it in that area, that's going to be 18 pounds. I'm not sure I want to melt lead. I don't have a foundry or capabilities for that. So I have this clunky old scale, and I took some weights, which I weighed individually and together. I ended up with this table, and there's my calibration factor. And so I measure 750 mils, which is the top line there. These are split in half here. Anyway, 750 mils of number 9 shot turns out to be measured at 11 pounds, scales up to 11.5 pounds. That gets me to 65. I'm working in milliliters. But anyway, it's 65 milliliters per pound, or 0.2552 pounds Hold on. Pause for now. So, of course, yesterday when I went to restart the discussion of the amount of lead to put in the centerboard, which is the whole point of this diatribe, I was trying to figure out, was that the correct density? And that is the correct density for lead. That's 0.252 pounds per cubic inch. And for regular lead, it's 0.41. And it's about, so that 0.41 over 0.252 is 1.6, something like that. So I have to increase the volume from what was it here? 0.26 cubic feet, or however many cubic inches that is, or from up to, bottom line, it turns out to be about 1,200 milliliters, excuse me. And that, so if I measure, I don't have shot in cups anymore, but in the previous video you saw, I was at somewhere here, a little over, it was around 600. That was about 1,250, I think is the amount there. That was 8.8 pounds. So I've dropped it down. So 1,200 milliliters. And I think that turns out to be, should have done this in darker ink, but anyway, 73 cubic inches. And the square root of 73 is 8.56. So if you could take a box, 8.56 on the side, where that's 1 inch thick, that's going to be, is that right? But I decided I don't want to do that. I want to use, or I could do 6.5 inches by 11.5 inches. Various different dimensions here. Bottom line, what I've decided to do is to have two pieces. And here, I think maybe I drew it up on the drawing. Forget the drawing; it's too cluttered. So here's the plywood. There's one sheet up there and one sheet here. Now, I remember talking about all this yesterday, and it wasn't recording, which is wonderful. Anyway, so these two cutouts are 6 by 6, and that should be 36 twice is 72 versus 73. And these are going to get cut at 45 degrees, so there'll be a little bit of increase. So it'll be 18 to 18.5 pounds of lead mixed with epoxy. That's the point. So even with the extra mass from the epoxy, that'll be, extra weight from the epoxy will be will exceed what we need. Now, I chose, I'm not going to bother doing this, but I chose these faces to cut out because the center was bowing at the edges, so there's a little bit of warp in these boards. So I'm going to wet the opposite sides on both pieces, and then put in thickened epoxy after I cut out this thing with individual sides 45 degrees, so that there'll be a divot around the inside edge of both of these holes. And I wanted to have a structural piece between them so that I didn't have this large mass flopping around inside the unconstrained inside the centerboard. So I also thought about putting the blocks here above each other, and when the keel is down, that's going to put the weight deeper. So there's a benefit to that. But by having these down, but when you put that weight up, it's higher in the boat. So this keeps the weight closer to the bottom of the boat when the keel is when the centerboard is up. And of course, it's 6 of one, half dozen of the other probably. But we'll see how that goes. Worst comes to worst, I'll have to make a new keel. I don't want to do that because the plywood is expensive, and so is the lead. So, but we're going to give this a shot. I didn't want to try to do melting lead. Everybody online says, oh, it's no problem. You can do it on your stove. I said, my wife will divorce me if I try to melt lead on the stove. So the trick now is cleaning the graphite. The lead shot is coated in graphite. I'm going to clean that off. I'm going to try a couple solvents, probably start with mineral spirits, then acetone. There's some soaps that work. It's water soluble. Anyway, I'm going to be doing what's necessary to get the lead clean so that the epoxy will stick to it and not have a barrier. So then I've got some, these are 6.5-inch brass pieces, which will snap into place like this. Structural support for the epoxy. Given that these holes are a little bit larger, and I calculated the volume to be, or the mass that was going to be in this thing to be more like 21 pounds instead of 18.5. I'm going to put a piece of plastic here and a piece of plywood here, and then I'll come in from the other side and pour a thin bed. So there'll be a thin bed of epoxy on the base, take up a little bit of the volume, and then I'll let that set a little bit, and then I'll fill the rest with the slurry of the lead pellets and thickened epoxy. It's going to be all thickened epoxy, and have it so that it has a slight bit that has to be filled, and I'll fill the rest with thickened epoxy on the top. And that way I won't overweight this thing. I was concerned because it was starting to get to be 22 pounds or something like that, and I have to do some more sanding, but I did a quick sand of this inside surface because it got epoxy on it, so I got to scuff that surface so that we get a good adherence to the inner side of this, and hope to get that done today. And then whatever fairing I have to do on the top and just sanding it, because I'd really prefer to have no lead exposed once the epoxy is finally cured. Anyway, more later.